Welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond. I'm your host, Ivotres Littles, and this is Shudderary, where we go behind the screens of Shudder original and exclusive movies. Today, I have an amazing guest, Rob Jabbaz, who wrote and directed Shudder original movie, The Sadness. How are you doing?
I'm great. Great to be here on Shudderary. That rolls off the tongue, you know?
Hey, it's a long story how I got that name. I was trying to figure something out, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing it January, so Shudderary," and
That's
a lot
not
of
that's
people
not that
liked
long
it.
of a story.
Well, I shortened it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I want to talk about The Sadness. That movie, when I first seen it, I didn't really hear much about it when it first came out, but when I watched it, and I watched it twice, I was just like, I loved it. I was like, wow, it's violent, it's extreme, and all in a good way. And I just want to say to everyone out there who be watching, there will be some spoilers, just to put it out there. Uh, but yes, I got to talk about this film. So it's about a young couple trying to reunite in amid a city ravaged by a plague that turns people into deranged, bloodthirsty sadists. Where did you get this idea? I mean, let's start there because that's a lot going
Hmm.
on, but it was so good.
Yeah. Well, the idea, like, you know, there's it sort of came from the decision by the guy who would end up financing the film. He wanted to make a movie about like the pandemic. He wanted to make a pandemic horror movie. So his mind first goes to just like zombies. And
Hmm.
in the pursuit of trying to do something more interesting than zombies, or what are we gonna do? Like, we don't have a lot of money here, so what are we gonna do to make this stand out? So I started thinking like, well, what's the progression? Like, the 28 Days Later and the Dawn of the Dead remake had the zombies running, and then so it's like the next step is like to have them like being intelligent and thinking and stuff, and then that reminded me of this comic book that I had read like in 2010 called Crossed by Garth Ennis and Jason Burrows, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of what that was about. Except the whole thing was that they weren't trying to like eat you; they were trying to just harm you, to for the sadistic pleasure of it. So then, so I thought to myself like, maybe that's the way to go. And how come that movie hasn't been made yet, like, because it's been like more than 10 years since that idea has been introduced. Um, and I kind of thought about what that meant to kind of like appropriate an idea like that. But then I started thinking like, well, no one uh says that The Walking Dead is a ripoff of like Night of the Living Dead. It's like it's just the same monster. No one says The Lost Boys is a ripoff of Dracula. It's like you take this concept and then you apply your own sort of story to it. So I thought like, you know what? We have a opportunity here to sort of make a movie that isn't going to be um, restricted by standard sort of like Hollywood morality, like the MPAA or whatever. Like, we're making it in Taiwan, and no one's really stopping me from doing anything. So like, I might as well just go with this like really nasty idea because I can. And then also there's, then as I started moving forward with it, we came up with some really nasty stuff, and then I started realizing that if it went too far, we wouldn't even be able to get it into film festivals. So that's why the film shows restraint in a lot of places, because I think that when you go extreme, it's good, but if you go too extreme, then what happens is you cause a lot of the audience to kind of shut down. So uh, it's important to kind of maintain a balance and to sort of figure out kind of a good place to stand, because the sadness is pretty violent and pretty extreme and pretty fucked up, etc. But at the same time, I think that it doesn't go over a line that
Hmm.
that would make it into something just like fuck this movie, like that you would just make you shut down.
No, you're absolutely right. But
What's the
this
goriest
one,
movie that you've ever seen?
Tokyo Gore Police.
Yeah, but that's kind of like a like fun. It's like a joke. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that is the closest. I think that's the closest of just extreme. I mean, for me,
Mm-hmm.
because like here you don't have that much here in the States. I mean, it just doesn't, because if you go
Well,
too far, it's like But
I
this
think that
one,
I believe that after the success of Terrifier 2, like and sort of indie movies in a theater space, kind of not like for a long time not knowing really what to do. After seeing the success of Terrifier 2, I think that a lot of smaller movies are going to really try, and probably most of them are going to be unsuccessful. Like it's probably, you know, no one's going to be able to achieve that magic that was achieved with Terrifier 2. But I think that there's going to be a lot more gory movies coming down the pipe, just because of the very well documented success of that film. So hopefully, America will be able to get more gory movies in the near future. That's my prediction.
yeah, I agree with you. But the difference with that one is that you have a clown that people liked. You like Art the Clown. Like he was the important figure, and then stuff was happening. But just to
Mm,
have gore for gore, it's kind of tricky
I don't
without a
know. I think
character that you actually liked. But yours, I mean, it opens with you liking these characters. I mean, you actually like, Kat and Jim. Like you you see how their life is. They're loving boyfriend girlfriend, and everything seems great until they take that scooter ride, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, what's all happening? I felt like that scooter ride scene with all that was happening, it felt like it was foreshadowing them and what we were about to see, like the end
mhm.
result of the entire thing, because it was slow motion and you saw this guy with a police officer, deranged, and then you see the woman being held back, and then you see the body and people are like, what's going on? I mean, and then you see like the authorities just standing there letting this stuff happen. It seemed like it like felt like that, and that's the sense that I was getting. And that automatically tell you what kind of film you're about to watch. It's about to go completely nuts.
Mhm.
That scene alone at the diner or whatever he was getting the food from, I even timed it from when the guy got spit on by the deranged looking old lady or old man or whatever that was, and it was like 20 seconds till you attack. I mean, you had no chance.
Yeah, but it actually in the film, like there's not any real set rule for anything. Like sometimes people turn within 20 seconds. Sometimes it takes them like, you know, 15 minutes. Sometimes it takes them all day. Like it, I was pretty fast and loose with the rules of the film. You know, I just like I'm not in this to create like what do you call that, like a logically tight film. I just want to uh, have people get cut up and stabbed and eyes gouged and stuff. That's all I really care about with the sadness. And also, it's important also too. I should say is that I shouldn't be so flippant, because I was trying to make it so that couldn't take any of the violence lightly. Like I wanted people to really suffer, and I think that's important. I think that's something that is missing, like with violence in films a lot, is that you don't really get to see people like suffer, or if they are suffering, it's like justified or something. Like some
Hmm.
guy in the first act of the movie, he slaps his girl, and then in the end of the movie, he gets raped in prison, and everyone's like, yeah, cool, that's good, and it's kind of like, what the, like it's funny how morality plays into violence, like morality and justice. But I don't know. In the sadness, I just wanted for example, the character of Molly. That's an old Hong Kong trick where you take someone who's totally innocent and who doesn't deserve it, and then you just do them really dirty, and then it's like it's it's such an underhanded trick used a lot in Hong Kong films of the 90s, where they have like the sweet girl who just something, you like her, and then something horrible happens to her, and it's just like, holy fuck, right? So that's I wanted to just take that one from the masters of Hong Kong to add to my film. That's my little nod to them.
Well, that train ride alone told you a lot of things, but it also told you this: the old guy that was sitting there and he was trying to get her attention, and cat's attention, and she was just like, I'm trying to read, like, leave me alone. And then it got to the point where she was just like, do you want me to say this out loud or whatever? And then you could see it mumbling under his breath, like, that's what's wrong with today's people, just cannot accept the compliment. But I think when the virus get you, the things that the impulses is something that you always possessed. That's kind of what I was getting. Like, it wasn't something that you triggered. It once you got affected, it triggered something. I think what always was there, he always found young women a certain way, and along with anyone in there, take away morality and just go for it. Also want to say that the train felt like a dance, like the way it all happened, like you see the one incident and it just moves across the entire train. Like, how much choreography of trying to get it, through the camera and move everybody. And I mean, because you were seeing different perspectives everywhere. I just thought
Yeah,
that train was so important for the entire film, to see how far people were going. And then you see the end result, which was just blood everywhere. I mean,
right.
for rehearsal time, how long did that take? Because I really
Uh,
loved it.
yeah, thank you. I mean, it really wasn't. I come from an animation background, right? And that's sort of
Mhm.
where I came up. And then I got into, I got this opportunity to start making live action films by the grace of the Almighty. So, anyways, the thing about doing a scene like that, I kind of look to my animation roots, and I think, uh, okay, well, if I were animating this, I would plan it out very very clearly across a timeline with storyboards, and I would know all of where all of my shots were, and I would just have it really well planned. The reason why I'm thinking about that is because I don't want to be animating more than I have to, right? Like, because it takes a long time to animate stuff. So I tend to be pretty like economical with the planning. So to answer your question, I just storyboarded it in a very detailed way, and I knew what all my shots were going to be, and in terms of like continuity, like sort of how much blood is visible, because once there's blood visible, then uh, you have and you want to go back to when there wasn't blood, like do a reshoot or whatever. You have to like clean. Okay, everyone, like let's pause for about half an hour. We need to clean the train. We tried to. I set it up so that that needed to be done as little as possible. Also, another thing that really helped in that regard was doing all the violent stuff with close inserts, like hero shots. So that way, uh, the background is like bloody, but maybe it's only a little bit of blood in the background, like compared to the rest of the train. And then we have like someone getting neck ripped open, or their Achilles tendon bitten out, or their eyes gouged out. And then if you do that as a close up, then that's really easy to do. That's really easy to just sort of edit in somewhere, because it's not contextualized. It's just a close up, right? So
Mhm.
I guess maybe just the very very thorough planning, and also kind of shooting stuff with editing in mind is was the key to kind of putting that all together. And yeah, but the storyboards, I can't stress this enough, especially if there's any like young filmmakers watching. Storyboarding, like very very detailed storyboards, are going to save your life any time that you're doing a film. I think that's what got me through the sadness. Like, there were some days where it was just like, if we didn't have these storyboards all planned out, I don't know if I'd be able to do this today. I think I would just be like, I don't know what to do, guys, help me. And if the director says that, then everyone just loses trust in you. All of a sudden, the captain of the ship doesn't know what's going on, and then the ship goes under.
It starts off like it looks like a a romantic, like love story, and they got to find each other through this chaos. But then they could separate it, and the chaos throughout that entire city was just wild. The Alvin virus. Was there a reason to call it Alvin? Because it just like, well, that's kind of different.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like it when, remember the movie Life with Jake Gyllenhaal with that
Yeah.
alien in space? That the alien in that movie they called Calvin, and they kept that name for it throughout the entire film. And I thought that was really funny how it's like this horrifying alien, but it has this sort of like, oh, Calvin and Hobbes, like this sort of cute name. And then I was sort of thinking about, okay, I got to come up with some bullshit science fiction crap about what this virus is. So I thought, okay, like it's a Lissa virus, like the virus that the family of viruses that rabies comes from, tends to target like brain tissue, and also an adenovirus, which is like something that is generally airborne, and is not very deadly or very serious, but at the same time, it's extremely contagious. So I thought like, okay, adeno Lissa, so like A and then like Ly, and it was like Al, and then I was like, I don't know, is Alvin maybe that can be like a short form, like COVID, right? COVID is like
Yeah.
coronavirus. So I was just trying to think of like some little short form thing. I don't know, like I to be honest, I ever since people started asking me, I've had to like think a lot more about why I did it. I didn't really think about it that much in the beginning. I as much as I thought about it, I just told you the whole story. So that's it. You got the final word from Rob Jabbaz here.
Now you mentioned if it was too gory, people wouldn't be like, "What?" But like when you were writing, poor Molly, she just the eye, not
Mm-hmm.
just getting poked in the eye, she got screwed. Like,
Yeah.
how did you like want to see how far you would go? I've never seen anything. That's what I love about foreign films, because they just go way beyond anything. You don't see it that much here, and if it's done, it's not executed correctly or right, or it seems off. But every time I see a foreign movie takes it to a different level, they take it there. When writing scenes like that, like, were you afraid, like, okay, is this too far, or will is this acceptable? How do you know that until the point
Mm-hmm.
that you actually make it and try to put it somewhere and someone's like, oh my god, this is too much? Like, because that was wild. Like, I felt so bad for her. I was like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
goodness.
That's exactly. You should do is, if you're interested in watching similar like sort of uh, horror or thriller films that are kind of designed in this way, you should look at the work of Billy Tang, Tang, the
Mhm.
Hong Kong director from the 90s. He has a movie called Red to Kill that I think a lot of inspiration comes from Red to Kill, especially
Mhm.
how they handled certain female characters. There's another one that he directed called the title is very similar. The film's called Run and Kill. So Run and Kill and Red to Kill are the two. And these are English translations developed by marketing people to sell to the Western market. So that's why the titles are all sort of similar, because they want you to kind of just, oh yeah, like, oh, it's the same as that one, or it's part of the same series. Anyway, so to answer your question, I just so here's the thing. I don't think that like blood and gore. Okay, so we were talking about like Tokyo Gore Police earlier, right? Like I don't think that movie. Like you can sit down and watch that movie, and it's kind of like you don't really get upset or disturbed by it. I wouldn't say that it's a very disturbing movie, because it's just kind of all fun. It's a joke. It's Peter Jackson's Dead Alive. Like just it's it's
Yeah.
for it's for fun. But then what actually is upsetting is what I believe is upsetting is cruelty. So then you can watch like Michael Haneke's Funny Games, for example, and there's not any gore in that, but it's like way more frustrating and upsetting, because it's about people who don't deserve it being brutalized, and that actually is what the problem is. That actually is what where people draw the line. You can have something like Zombieland, right, where you just have people getting fucked up every which way possible, but it's like it's okay because they're zombies, right? They don't feel anything. They're not suffering at all. And also the film for the human characters, the film has a tone of um, fun. So it's not very hard hitting. So I think having that understanding in the beginning of kind of like, okay, um, it's not violence, it's cruelty that makes the difference. And
Mm-hmm.
also in terms of just like graphic non-sexualized violence, I think that in a post Breaking Bad world, like Western audiences are okay with pretty much everything. When you start introducing uh, more cruel violence, especially sexualized violence, uh, uh, you know, um, sexual assault and sexual torture and things like this. That's where it's like, no, sorry. Like a lot of people just, even if there's like a whiff of that, people just don't want to see it. And that's what I think is interesting, because like you want to make a horror movie that is horrifying and that affects people, but you also don't want to like make it a wholly unpleasant experience. You'll notice
Mm-hmm.
that in the sadness, like the eye rape scene, for example, um, I don't show any of it. It's all off screen, and it's all just people's reactions to it. And that's all completely like people have asked me. They're like, "Why didn't you show it? How come you didn't show it?" Like, "Oh, you pussied out. You didn't show it." I'm like, "No, I did it exactly the correct way for a normal person to watch it and to get something from it, but not to like um, sort of just shut down."
Mm-hmm.
I think that if that scene had been really exploitative, I think if I had been watching that and it had gone that way, it had turned into like a Wrong Turn 4 or Wrong Turn 5. Like these sequels that are
Mm-hmm.
just trying to be fucked up, but it's kind of just like fuck off. Like it uh, that's the kind of stuff that I wanted to avoid with the sadness. So I was again planning storyboards, like really trying to think like how can I get the message across but not alienate my audience. That I guess is that's my answer. I guess I think it's understanding sort of psychologically what all this stuff means and how to kind of
Mm-hmm.
work with it.
Well, there was something that happened with the character, um, and I actually wrote it. He was for Jim. There was something about him that felt like it summed up what the movie exactly what it is. When he was obviously he was infected and he was talking to her like he had to get to her. He loved her, but at the same time, he just wanted to peel her skin away. And I was thinking the entire time, this virus it lets you do what you always wanted to do. Like it was always there. Like you love someone so much you could kill them. I mean, you love someone so much you want to be a part of them. And I was kind of feeling like he loved her, but at the same time, with what was in him was the truth. Like, I want to do these things to you, but I love you. I mean, it was just kind of that conversation between him and her was like creepy, but I get it at the same time. Until she ran outside and got messed up. Like I was like, I thought she was getting away. No.
Well,
So
I
it
mean, you
did
didn't
like
you didn't see that. You didn't see that, so you don't know.
well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you didn't
It,
see it.
it's
But
heavily
I heard
inferred.
screams and shooting, so
Yeah, me too. I put them in there.
so you're not 100% sure what happened, but that conversation was so intimate but haunting and creepy and scary. I mean, This film, I just love it. Like, I just really love that it's just not complete gore and bloody and make no sense. Everything was a reason. I even timed, like, it took 15 minutes to get to the first attack, then 30 minutes. I mean, it moved along. There was nothing hanging around. There was like, it just didn't string you along to something happens. I mean, it got to the point. Here's the story. This is what this virus does. The government doesn't care about you. Some of that stuff looked real, not looked like they were really getting their eyes gouged out. I mean,
Mhm.
that was pretty awesome.
When you are planning stuff out, storyboards and whatnot, a lot of times you're doing it at a stage earlier than sort of like a tech scout, like when you go and figure out the locations and stuff. So, for example, in the storyboards, you'll see that, um, or rather, you would see that there are some scenes where it's like, oh, okay, this the tunnel scene in the part where Molly and Kat are escaping the businessman, like after the subway scene, that was supposed to take place like in on an escalator. Like in the storyboards, it's was drawn as an escalator, and uh, like a shut down escalator, and then they're trying to get Molly up these stairs, and the businessman is chasing after them, and it's a lot more of like a tighter, um, like like he's really on their heels, and he's like swinging the axe, and it's hitting against the steel of the stairs and all stuff. But anyways, like uh, we end up not being able to find that location. Oh, we can't find a really long escalator, and the one that I'm thinking of is just it's too busy, and we couldn't shut it down. Um, so anyways, the point is just sometimes you have, like I said before, it's really important to plan everything out, but at the same time you have to be really flexible and able to think on your feet. So it's like, okay, guess what, we this scene that you planned out that involves an escalator and four people doing something. Well, guess what, today we don't have an escalator, all we have is a long hallway, and we can only get two people. So you got to figure out what to do then, and then you're like, okay, and then you have to just sort of pull something together a little bit. So I think that's true with um, low budget. Like if it's a big budget film, it's like you will follow the structure that you've established, because it's the structure that has been vetted already and approved by these investors and by all these people who have interest in the film, right? But when you're doing sort of
Mm.
like a smaller production, and you still have investors that care about the film, you making the film that you promised you would make, you there is a little bit of leeway, because it's like, okay, well, listen, if you want us to make the film that is on this paper, then unfortunately you're going to have to give us another, I don't know, whatever, blah, blah, blah money. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you need to be, it's a balance between sort of very, very thorough planning and flexibility when doing this kind of
Mm.
stuff. And yeah, and of course, kudos to the art team and kudos to the special effects team, because they best work to the sadness. And I hope that people can watch the film, and they can see that it's the Taiwan sort of the Taiwan film industry has uh, world class talent in that regard.
Have you ever thought of doing a part two to this?
I mean, of course, it's crossed my mind, or doing a not a remake, but like
Yeah.
a westernized version, like bring it to the States or something. And it's like, yeah, sure, that sounds okay, but it's not. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'd do it if I got paid like a lot of money, because it's not um, something that's very close to my heart to sort of like continue doing the sadness series. Like I'd rather do something else. I think that there's other stories that I want to tell. I don't want to be like the guy who just does like uh, sexualized violence. Like that's not a good look to be as your reputation. Oh yeah, it's Rob Jabbaz, the rape guy. Like it's not a cool look. So I would do it, but only like if it made sense financially. But otherwise, I have lots of other ideas and lots of other sort
Okay.
of stories that I'd like to tell.
Thank you so much for joining me on this. I mean, I really wanted to talk to you, and it was on my bucket list for a Shudderary, and I
Well,
can
that's
mark it off.
it's my very great pleasure to join you. So thanks a lot. for the invite.
Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out The Sadness. I mean, yes, we talked about it, but there is more to it. Tell your friends, tell everybody, watch The Sadness. And until next time, thank you everyone for watching. Bye.